It's our 7. Good evening, everyone. It's a couple minutes after 7, and we're going to call this meeting to order. And we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Flag. Are we ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Please make yourselves comfortable. Please make yourselves comfortable. Okay. Leading off, we have public comments tonight. Is Linda Cole our only public comments there?
Yes.
Okay, Linda, please make sure you get that microphone on and hold it close.
Testing. No, doesn't say it's on. Is it on?
You're good.
So Linda Cole, I'm doing a report tonight on the Candy Nassau Memorial. And I've given a physical written report. I emailed you, Sarah, for your records.
Thank you.
And I gave a physical report, but we just wanted to update. We were supposed to do it last month, but we didn't have a meeting. The Candy Nassau Memorial Gazebo and Park was dedicated on July 13th. Last month, I got a couple of pictures there where the Nassau family, did a ribbon cutting, and it was well attended by all of the community. We publicly announced that, etc. We've done some more work since then, but we wanted people to be able to use the park this summer, and I'm happy to report people have been using the park. We see people down there picnicking. A big old group of people brought a grill, so people are already starting to enjoy the park. We have done some additional improvements, for lack of a better word. I can't remember what the timelines are, but I've listed them out for you. We've installed, so the gazebo's been finished, but we've got the tables installed. We've got the drip lines. We put up a temporary sign. We put in a flower bed with a rock border around it. There are 2 benches that overlook the creek for you to sit on that now have a beautiful, like, Blackstone patio with a walkway from the gazebo. Let me think what else. We reinforced that retaining wall that's up by the pond, a flag, y'all can see that, and we moved one of the bear-proof. We were under the impression that there was trash cans that were ordered for the park, and so we relocated one of them to the corner. If both of them are allocated to the park, we were positive. Then we'll do the second one, and we'll put an exit sign up for folks. We really want everybody to start, when you're going down the ramp on 9th Street. The one thing I left off here is that dirt pile that will be moved. Sorry, on the left, and just plan for that. When you go, people are just used to parallel parking or blocking 9th Street altogether. I'm asking everybody here and tell everybody, you really want to use that ramp and angle-in parking, head-in parking, so that people leave that open, so people can drive down 9th Street to the park, and then you'll see an exit sign to exit off to the left as we go to the right at the dead end. We do have 2 things left to do. One is to put the trusses up. That's a cosmetic for all intents and purposes. On the gazebo, and the other is a fence. So that'll help vehicles, people, etc. for safety reasons. The sign will be lifted up so you'll walk under that entrance. And those are the 2 outstanding items. And then I put pictures here for the board, for those of you who have not been down here. And I can pass my copy around if you want to see the updates. We go back and back. Any questions? We are anticipating fence installation in the second half of September. That's what it's currently scheduled for. So maybe we're looking at turning over in the October meeting. But any questions? And we'll submit a permit.
Is fishing allowed there?
That's a great question. Is fishing allowed there? As far as, I mean, to me, it would be because the creek, if you're standing in the creek, you can fish. And that's public property on the side. So in my opinion, unless the board has something else to say, my understanding is you could fish there.
I need a permit.
But there is a sign on whoever's property is across the creek, so you can't go on their property. But it is a public park. Those of you, know, it says Town of Pitkin, Candy's Park on the sign, so we love it. Any questions from the board?
This is Tom. I may have a couple later on, but I don't at the moment. Looks like you've done a good job.
Thank you.
This is Ed. This is Ed. I don't have a question. Yeah, I think I'm on.
It's not very loud.
Okay. Pretty, oh, we may need to turn it up just a little bit over there.
Chad's on it.
I don't have a question, but I would like to say, I think the work that's been performed on the memorial is a wonderful tribute to our good friend, the Candy.
Thank you. We couldn't agree more. And there are huge numbers of people who have worked on this project over the last 2 years and more that are working on it to finish it up. And so I don't know about y'all, but it has just turned out even better than our vision. And I hope the town is proud of what the committee has been able to put together. So thank you for everybody's support and continued support as we finish that up. And that's it for my report.
Thank you. Okay, has our attorney joined us yet?
He has not. He and I are in communication and he is having some technical difficulties.
Technical difficulty.
Yes.
All right. Maybe we can bring him on later. Okay, we're going to move on to approving minutes. So we have the June regular meeting for June 24th. This was a
June 17th.
Hmm.
Regular meeting, June 7th. There you go.
Right. So I got that one wrong. Okay. So June 17, 2024. Town Pitkin meeting. Everybody read these?
Yes.
Was there any comments on them, corrections? Go ahead.
Go ahead, Jared. Ladies first.
Okay, I have just a few. On the fourth page, on the fourth page under item, it is, oh gosh,
Maybe.
6.4. Also, I don't, here, you could put it, I guess, after public comments, but I know I hear it, you know, it's talking about taking the boards off. And Mayor Pro Tem Gibb said he would remove the boards, and he has done that, but that wasn't. Can we add that? And on page 6,
Yeah.
under
What meeting are you? Are you under the 24th, June 24th, June
17.
17th, June 17th.
Regular meeting.
Okay, I'm not following you on. Oh, I'm sorry, 6.4. I see that.
Yep.
Sorry, I got you.
Did you find it?
Yep.
And I wonder too, Sarah, if we could number the pages,
Yeah,
that
So-
would be helpful.
starts here.
So,
Jared, would you repeat on 6.4 what you said?
yeah, I just said that it didn't make the minutes, but at that time, as I recall, Mayor Pro Tem Gibb said he would remove the boards, and he has done that.
Oh, okay.
He's gonna finish the job, finish a little more there, but he did take those.
Well, we left the runners down on a whim that perhaps there would be funding somehow, somewhere to reuse those, but we're gonna pick them up and just seed that in.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, so let's see. This is under maybe 5.9. That's a lengthy bullet point. Okay, I probably should have told Sarah this earlier. On the second paragraph down, it says Attorney Buckner stated that his point is based on objective data that has been provided to him by town staff and trustees. And I'm not, because the trustees aren't allowed to contact him. I don't know if that was really what he said. But then executive session I think that should have only been single, not sessions, because there was only one executive session that spoke about that, I believe.
I'll just switch that in the.
On. I'm not sure what are your.
Well, okay. Let's put it
Did you follow?
to.
I'm not, I don't know where you're at.
It's still under bullet point. Is that 5.9, I think?
Excuse me, sorry about that.
It's page 6.
Yeah, I'm gonna number pages. I'm sorry, that needs to happen.
It's the 6th page down, but it's under bullet point 5.9, I believe.
That's correct.
So what was the comment regarding that? I missed it.
It was one executive session and not sessions.
So that's really kind of a
Oh.
typo, maybe.
Yeah.
I failed to get that to Sarah ahead of time. Okay, and then on the next page, on page 7, down just up from the bottom where it says trustee Jara Garrettson stated that she doesn't want to direct the attorney to not look at a land swap because that could be a win-win option. So I don't think that's really what I said. I think I said that I do want to, that we should direct the attorney to look at a land swap. So it just didn't quite go together there.
Okay, 6.
And on the next page, on page 8, under discussion of filling the board vacancy, again, it's just under where it says the acting mayor and other trustees could appoint the sitting mayor, who would then serve in that position until the mayor tenure runs, but I probably should say runs out.
Okay, got it.
And that's all I have.
Okay,
Thank you.
I have some other things while we're on.
Okay, we have you.
Could you grab the mic, please? Thank you.
Is on the right side. Back on page,
Okay.
number 3,
Yes.
says Eddie Balch announced his resignation as mayor effective immediately. Would you please add the sentence, he then left the room,
Yes.
so it's clear who left. Down at 6.2, the second sentence, an amendment adds to the ordinance, but does not replace it. It should be adds to or changes.
Okay.
Does not replace it.
Got it?
The next paragraph says the current ordinance only regulates camping within public property. There are actually 2 ordinances. And so it should be made clear which one that refers to.
Okay, I'll put the reference there.
I don't have the numbers of the 2 ordinances.
Okay. I'll just add that in if that's fine with everybody.
Okay. On page 3, Near the bottom, the motion to table this item doesn't state who made the motion.
My notes show that Jara made the motion and I seconded it.
I don't recall, so either way is fine with me.
I have it written on my notes from the meeting.
Is that what we're
Are you-
going with? Jura and then Ed?
Yeah, I have,
It has seconded by Jared, trustee Jerry Harrison, but it doesn't have a name that on who made the motion. Well, what Ed is saying is that Jura made the motion and Ed seconded. Is that what he was like?
That's what I wrote down on the minutes for the agenda one.
okay. Do you want me to review that or is that what we're gonna go with? Cause I have a motion that was made and then withdrawn. And then I have the actual motion that was voted and it said made by trustee Ed Pianalto, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Tom Gibb. Unless I'm looking at the wrong number, where are we at?
Six,
Yeah, that may be the wrong number.
6-3.
Oh, my apologies, okay.
Yeah, near the bottom of page 3.
Okay, I see. All right, so Jara made the motion and Ed seconded.
That's what I have in my notes, yes.
All right, we'll go with that.
And then pass 4-0.
Got it?
On page 5, at the top, it starts with the town's attorney. The first paragraph. On
Yes,
page
I
5.
see.
Says stated at the May meeting. I think that should be at the March meeting.
It might have happened at the March meeting. I was just taking notes on what was said from the front, so. You want me to just change that to a previous meeting if we're unclear on which meeting it was?
That'd be fine.
Is everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
All right.
That's all the questions I have.
Previous meeting.
Oh, I do have one of them.
Yes,
Very beginning,
yes. I got, Dara sent me that one.
the minutes instead of agenda.
Yes, thank you.
What do you know?
But it's the June regular. It's
Okay, anybody have anything else they wish to add here?
I'm good with those changes. They incorporated the ones that I had as well.
I'll move approval of the June 17th minutes as corrected.
this is Jara and I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, moving on to the next set of minutes, which will be the,
I think the June 24th special meeting is the next set. And that was one that I printed and handed to you.
I know that, Robert, I would suggest we continue that. You got, Ben, okay. Unless I missed it.
This is Jara and I'll make a motion that we table the approval of June 24th work session minutes.
This is Ramon, I second.
are we good with that, everyone? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 All right, we're gonna table those. Like that. So we had a July 1st. So we were also, yeah,
We need to.
So probably what you'll want to do, so this is my fault. I did not send out all of the correct minutes. So the June 24th work session will probably, you'll want to table that one as well.
Correct.
And that could be done. And then we could move on to the July 1st special meeting and vote on those tonight.
okay, so the July 1st special meeting, which was held and lasted all of a few minutes. And that was to cover the ability to keep up with our finances and pay our bills and our financial obligations as we were. I was not here, and Ramon was not here, and we had no July meeting, and so we had to do this in order to stay in business through July, even though we had no July meeting. So that's what that meeting was about. Does anybody have anything they want to add to the minutes of this?
You're talking about July 1st.
Yes.
Yeah, under number 2, the motion
Oh,
ends with motion carried 5-0.
I just
Right.
noticed.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you.
I don't believe there were 5 present.
Nope,
No.
actually. And so just for clarity, motion carried 3-0.
Correct.
Okay. I'll make the motion that we approve the July 1st minutes of the special meeting with the amendment brought forward.
I'll second the motion.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes for July 1st special meeting. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right,
Hey, Tom, I don't know if that meeting notes were listed on the website.
They don't get on the website until they're approved. Yep, they'll be put on after tonight. All right.
this is up,
Oh, no.
minutes.
I'll make a motion that we
Oh, thank you.
table the June 24th work session minutes.
This is
Bill.
Kara and I second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to table the June 24th work session minutes. Those actually are kind of like a phone book. So some of us haven't gotten through them more than once. So, if at all. So we're gonna table that. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor of tabling the June 24th work session minutes? Say aye.
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 Okay, motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, Pro
Yes,
Tem,
ma'am.
could we please switch the next 2 bullet points?
I do not know the answer to that. Is there
I-
anything specific? Sarah?
Yeah, so the reason they're listed in that order is because the board is only authorized to fill a vacancy that exists. So currently, we have an existing vacancy in the seat of mayor. We have to fill that vacancy.
The trustee vacancy has,
We don't have a trustee vacant. We have 4 trustee seats and we have 4 trustees right now.
As mayor pro tem, I'm just acting. I'm not actually mayor.
Right.
I'm a trustee. So we have 4 trustees. So until that changes, we don't actually have a seat.
so is that the attorney's advice?
You can ask him.
Yes, please. Where we have a even number up here, I think it would expedite things if we could appoint the trustee first and then vote on a mayor, since we are the board that's going to be selecting that position. Mr. or
Yeah,
Attorney,
I think you could do it however you want.
We can't hear you very well.
You can't hear me even with my new thing? Hold on.
Not well.
Was it better when I had the other system? Hold on, let me.
Yes.
It's coming through here. We're just not picking it up on the mic.
Move that thing right down.
This is, I mean, I'm plugged directly in.
There we go.
There we go. Gotcha. Gotcha.
Wow, that was really loud.
Yeah.
Yeah, y'all sit near the mics.
Sarah, is that good?
Yes.
Okay. I think, I think you can do it however you want. I mean, you can appoint, and you could have, I mean, you have to appoint within a certain amount of time for a vacant trustee seat, but you can't appoint a trustee you're talking about appointing a trustee first, but you have nowhere to sit them. So you can't.
I didn't understand that.
Well, so at any point, correct me if I'm wrong, Sarah, or any trustee, you are a 5-member board, 4 trustees, 1 mayor. You're elected on alternating schedules. And right now you have 4 sitting trustees. So there's no way for 4 sitting trustees to appoint a 5th trustee because that vacant slot does not exist.
Okay, so, but I thought your first sentence was, yes, we could do it however we wanted to.
You can but you have to have the vacant spot. So, and you don't. I just mean you have the authority to do it right now. Logistically, you just cannot do it unless you moved. You just can't do it. You have 4 sitting trustees that were voted or appointed, and you have 1 open mayor spot. So you can't. I mean, you could do some shuffling, I suppose, and try to do it that way, but you could technically, I guess, appoint a mayor unless you've passed an ordinance that says that a mayor has to be elected, and then you could have that mayor. Then you could vote in a trustee and have that mayor step down, but then now you have 5 trustees so you're kind of in a pickle.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, I mean, I when I say you can do it, I mean you have authority. It doesn't necessarily mean that I should have led with, no, I don't think it's possible. But yes, there's nothing stating in statute that you can't appoint a trustee, but you have to have a vacant position to do it first. So, like I said, I think you can get creative. I don't suggest it, like by having a trustee step down and then appointing one, and then shuffling him to mayor and then appointing a trustee. You could get really creative. It's just really confusing for any future boards and elections and stuff.
So you're saying that Tom Gibbs' trustee spot is not vacant?
Correct.
He's still a trustee, just mayor pro tem, also those 2 positions?
Yeah, he's mayor pro tem, and at this point he's acting mayor because your mayor slot is empty. So as far as chairpersons and running the meetings, Pitkin doesn't have any special authority given to mayors. It's not a strong mayor form of government or anything like that. So you have your trustee with his mayor pro tem hat that's now using that hat to act as mayor in lieu of that spot being vacant.
Did he get 2 votes?
No.
Okay,
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, just before we proceed, I would like to point out that this could have been averted. Back in the June minutes that we just approved, it states the trustee Ramon Reed stated he would be unavailable from July 15th to July 24th. Therefore, we did not have a quorum to hold a meeting in July. But in fact, Mr. Reed was in town on both the 15th and the 16th, working at the post office where he would have been available. It does disturb me that we have possibly a board of trustee that created a diversion to not have a meeting, so we wouldn't have a quorum, so we couldn't take care of business in the town of Pitkin. That concerns me greatly. I just like to have that on record, that he was in town. He would have had a quorum. He elected to say he's not available and it put the town in jeopardy, in my opinion.
May I address that? Well. Yes, sir. Mr. Penalton, yes, I stated I was unavailable. I did not ever state I would not be in town. I was unavailable, period, and that's all you need to know.
Thank you for your comments.
Okay, I will put up with from a fellow board member.
Okay, we're gonna move on. Okay, so discuss with possible action. Appointing a mayor of the town, serve until the April election. So this is done. How many have we got running? Just two. And then myself. And so, this will be done by written ballot. And I suppose I should ask if, either of those persons running was to make any kind of speech. The town of Pitkin.
I would ask to say something.
Go ahead.
So the Colorado State Statute 31-10-301 lists the three requirements that were stated at the post office and on the website for the requirements to hold a municipal office. One of those requirements, which I believe that I fulfill 100%, is that the nominee must hold an office in any municipality if he or she has resided in the municipality from which he or she is to be elected for a period of at least 12 consecutive months immediately preceding the date of the election. Now, Mr. Gibb, I would present to yourself, and I would believe everybody in this room and the people of the town of Pitkin would say that you actually reside at Kimberly Placer outside of the town Pitkin and not in the town of Pitkin, which therefore makes you ineligible to run for the mayor position. It also makes you ineligible for the board of trustee position as well.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Pianaldo.
I'd like to know where your residency is, Mr. Gibb.
I am a snowbird. You're a liar. I am a snowbird, and I come this way for the winter. It's an easy house, West Bar built a real snuggle. And then when I can head back to the branch. And so it is true, I snowbird back and forth a bit.
So you have not been the resident on Sage Lane, which is your residency that you claim, in the town of Pitkin for the last 12 months.
It is my permanent residence, yes.
But you have not lived there the past 12 months.
Oh, yes, I have. I was there this last winter.
How can you live there when you've had it rented out to do two different people during the winter and through the spring up through June 1st of this year?
A couple months at a time.
That's not 12 consecutive months. Mr.
Well,
Town
let me-
Attorney, could
Yes,
you
sir.
please weigh in on this?
Yes, sir. So in the state of Colorado, the threshold for claiming residency is very low. The courts have determined that any person who even has the intent, who claims residency in Colorado and even has the intent of returning to Colorado, can be a resident. And so being a 12-month resident has to do with your what you claim on your permanent residence, which is often shown in your either your driver's license or your taxes, etc. Typically, and that's a case wherein a person who left New York left Colorado, went and lived in New York for a couple of years with the claimed intent of returning to Colorado, and they still upheld that person was considered a resident for the state of election purposes. And so Unfortunately, or for you look at it, Colorado has very liberal and very low threshold residency requirements. So if Mr. Gibb has claimed residence in the town of Pitkin for the last, 6 years, whether or not he's here for a week at a time or 8 months at a time or 365 days a year, that's his residence, according to Colorado law.
And that applies to voting rights and under 31-10-301,
And
that
elected
states 12 months, consecutive months.
Yep, that's talking about legal residence. It doesn't mean actual necessary presence. Is my understanding, and I've looked into this a few times in the past, and that's always the answer. I don't know of any new case law or anything that would state otherwise, and it's often a surprise to most people that that's the way it is, but that's the way it is. The town can pass, technically, you can make it a little more strict. There's even some laws that allow you to make some exclusionary, open it up to, like, say, people in the county. The board has options, but typically, a vast majority, if not most, towns go by the state residency requirement because it's subject to challenge, and so the state already has it kind of ironed out.
So basically what you're saying is it's a loophole in the law.
Well, I don't know if it's a loophole. It's just Colorado's definition of resident is full-time resident, claiming full-time residency or with intent to return, even if they're not in state for long periods of time. So sure, if you want to, you could count it as a loophole, I guess, as you're comparing it directly against that language, but it is standard. That's standard practice in Colorado at this time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bruckner. Are we going to do public comments of endorsement?
I have a question. I admit to being uninformed, perhaps, do our local ordinances say anything about that?
Not that I'm aware of.
So the word, I'm going by what it said at the post office. This just came into my mind. It said reside. So reside or residence, are those the same?
Yeah, that's the trick of it, is that
Reside 12 consecutive months, I think it said.
and that just has to do with whatever your claimed permanent residence is.
Okay.
So, you could have somebody who, for example, moves into Pitkin 13 months ago, or let's just say they move in to the day. They transfer everything into their residence at Pitkin. They do their address, they claim it permanent residency on their taxes, etc. And then they go on an 11-month stay.
Roads.
I think we lost him.
To return, and there's no evidentiary proof to the contrary, then that's their permanent residence, and that's what they're talking about. And that's case law. I'm happy to look up the case law and write another memo or do something for you that's more formal, but that's my understanding of the current state of definition of permanently reside.
So I would like to add, as far as my statement, after living in the town of Pitkin, within the town of Pitkin for the last 2 years as a full-time resident, I stand as the mayor to support the property owners in the town of Pitkin. And not to be selective upon which ordinances we will enforce and which ones we won't. I believe we should be equal to all parties in this town, whether they're property owners or whether they're visitors as well. But we cannot be selective in what we enforce and what we don't have. That's what I stand for.
Got it? Thank you, Ed. I understand the, let's be selective thing. And I have been acting mayor since June, pro tem. And since that time, into my hands have come one complaint. Now, previous to that, I was asked a question, what about all these complaints? And I said, I can't give you an answer because those come to the mayor and the mayor decides what to do with them. I'm not the mayor and I never got them, I never saw them. I did offer them the one complaint that I got. And should I be elected mayor, I will farm those out. It is in the purview of the mayor to either deal with the complaint directly or to hand it over to one of the trustees and let them come back with a report on it. So I will pursue farming those out so that I will not be the only one under the gun with what ordinances are supported and what ones are not. I do support the town of Pitkin. In fact, that's why I have been on this board, is because I do have a love for Pitkin. And I will stay with it as long as I am able. And there are two things to being able. And I won't go into that. But I think I would like to be the mayor for the rest of this term. There are some things that I would like to see carried on and carried out and gotten through in this town. So that's my speech. Okay, how many public comments are we going to take on this? Ed, what do you think?
I think we let the public talk.
Okay. First one up, I see Jesse's already got his hand on the phone. Thank you, Jesse. Please speak.
Jesse Garrettson. I visit the lobby of the post office nearly every day of the year. And on the bulletin board, it said that the position for trustee or mayor had to live in Pitkin. And somebody even at the bottom of it added question mark Tom Gibb. And then sooner or later, it disappeared. And another one was put up. All of you guys are our friends. All of you guys are needed. What does the Pitkin town ordinance say about the position of trustee and or mayor, please?
I know we don't normally.
No, we'll bounce back and forth. Go ahead, Jerry.
Well, the actual word is, well, at the post office, I believe, was reside. And to me, that means live, but legally, I'm not sure if we still have our attorney on.
Looks like he froze.
I'm always on.
Okay.
We both run off Starlink, and so I turn my video off so I don't hold too much bandwidth.
Okay. So not to correct the gentleman from the podium, but the word what is or was at the post office was reside, which is why I ask if reside and residence is the same one. To me, reside means live, but I guess maybe that, anyway, you told us what the state statute said already.
Well, it's not, the statute says reside, but it's been, there's been a lot of arguments just like this, and the court has decided that, residence is no longer necessarily tied to, where you lay your head every night, just based on, I guess, a more progressive and transitory population, etc. I'll pull the case law for you guys. And write it, like I said, I can write a formal memo if you'd like.
I think we need to vote.
It is a very interesting it's a very kind of, whoever said loophole, I don't know if that's exactly correct, but it does seem counterintuitive based on the language. And so I understand I understand that opinion because it does, by the plain language, that is what you'd assume. But that's just not how it's applied.
I knew it was that way for voting purposes. I didn't know how it came for.
Yeah, and
officials.
without clarification, and you can, Trustee Garrettson, I mean, you guys can make it more stringent if you want. You have to pass an ordinance, and but you can make it so it just gets complicated because what if if somebody leaves for a month or two, what for to visit their ailing family, what I mean? You have to think of a bunch of things that and address them. Otherwise, you're just going to keep having questions and questions about residing.
Thank you.
People who leave. So anyway, yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Mr. Adams. Hold it close.
All right, for the heck of it, we looked at on Webster's the definition. It says reside is a verb in the area or housing where a person lives. Resident is a noun meaning a person living in space, whether it's a house, apartment, apartment, or facility. Residence is also a noun. It means where a person lives. Seems pretty clear to me.
You moved here, Tom. You didn't want to move here.
Oh, I'm here in the meantime.
You're not. You're a liar. Edwin lived in that house all winter.
Shut up, please. Okay, quiet, guys. Here, look.
Bully Ramon, bringing him out.
Marie.
Am I on?
You are. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I want some clarification on one of the words that the, attorney used off the statute 31. And the word is intent. Is that intent to reside? Or, and if it is, does that open the door to people that want to be here and then they can vote? How does that work? I'm confused. You get charged for this.
Thank you, Marie.
We should talk about that.
Would you like me to respond to that, board?
I would.
Is that a
Yes,
trustee? I'm
please.
sorry. Okay. Well, and I'm pulling the, I'm pulling the rule, and this is the rule for determining residence for, and it is for qualifications of electors, but as my understanding is it's the same for elected officials unless you guys have made more stringent ruling. And it does say that a primary place of abode is a location of fixed habitation where a person intends to return if ever absent for any length of time. And then there's a whole bunch more language. And then if you go down to the explanation or the statute itself, it says, where is that one? It goes back to the intent again, and talks about the same thing, the intent to return. So I just read you a piece of the explanation or overview of the statute, and I believe I have not ever seen anything, and I'm doing a little research right now, but I've never seen anything in statute that overturns that for elected officials versus a voter. And in fact, I've seen that that has been the same. And so I'm looking, but again, it's where the person claims their home, where their fixed habitation is, and where that person intends to return if ever absent for any length of time. And so that's where you get the 6 months here, 6 months there, still a resident. If that person now, if any one of the trustees claimed a different town as their permanent residence or a different state, then that's a different story. But if Pitkin is the claimed residence, there is in fact a home, a condominium, apartment, a room, a house, or even a mobile home, then what they consider fixed habitation that's claimed by that person that, and they intend to return, then that's that.
So if I could ask a question, the 31-10-301 seems to be more clear in that it says that he or she has resided in the municipality from which he or she is to be elected for a period of at least 12 consecutive months, immediately preceding the date of the election. That's directly from the state statute that clarifies that it needs to be 12 consecutive months that you're living, not an intent to return or that you live 2 of the 12 months or 11 of the 12 months. It states 12 consecutive months.
Right. And I guess what my caution is, if you were to take that literally, then any person who took a vacation for over, 24 hours outside of the town might be considered as not being a permanent resident for those previous 12 months. And that's part of the analysis and the
So
rules
the question,
and the court's determination.
The question comes in is, how can a person reside in a residency if they've had it rented out to 2 different parties during the previous 12 months?
Yeah, I don't think what you do with your permanent residence or your fixed abode, if I'm going to use the language from the statute and the rule, or fixed habitation, you could rent it, you could use it as a business as long as you intend to return it. And it makes it very clear that you can return to, it could be a house, it could be a condominium, an apartment, which maybe is even just a rental and you sublet it, rooms in a house. So even if you had a room that you're returning to in a house that you claim as your fixed habitation. So again, it's crazy. I know this sounds bizarre based on the language, but this is the state of the law in Colorado. It's what we're working with. I understand, both sides of the coin here. I'm just giving you objective advice. Reside is not physical full-time presence, even though that's a common understanding of that.
All right. At this time, I guess we will cast our ballot. Sir, would you come collect them?
The votes are as follows. Tom Gibb, Ed Pianalto, we have a tie.
Okay. So we have a split, which means there's no point in going on to the next item, which is discussed with possible action appointing.
How are you gonna resolve it?
Pardon me, but go ahead and say your sentence, but I think I take issue.
Well, how are you going to appoint a trustee if we haven't got a vacancy?
Both at the same time, Mayor Pro Tem and a trustee.
I see no reason. We have a quorum here. Mr. Attorney, really, are we stuck? This makes no sense to me. We should be able to go ahead and fill our board tonight. We have, how many? 3 maybe?
My understanding is this will just go into an election and the town will get to decide.
For the mayor or?
Both.
No,
I don't
there.
No, you have to run there's a mayor position open. So, a trustee who runs.
Can the mayor vote for himself, or does the trustee, does he vote for the mayor, or does he vote for the trustee?
Please wait, let our attorney finish speaking first.
Sorry, start the question over. I apologize.
Is he a mayor or is he a trustee? Can't be both.
Okay, so
He's acting, Mr. Gibb right now is acting mayor, but he is in a trustee position. So he's the mayor pro tem acting as mayor because that's what he was appointed to do. And the mayor is no longer seated. The position is a mayor's position. If you can't come to a consensus to appoint the mayor, you're either going to have to do a shuffle like I explained earlier, or you have a, you know, it would be very convoluted, or you're going to have to go, which is what my suggested course of action is. If you guys really can't come to a consensus and appoint a mayor, then appoint another trustee, then you're going to have to do a special election for the mayor position. And again, that's you know, a rule. That's why if there's a split, you guys are in a kind of, you know, again, it's not best situation, but if you can't agree on who to appoint for mayor, then that's where you're stuck with. I'm imagining that if I'm imagining that if you cut out the two people who are vying for the mayor's position, we'd have the same split vote, which is also the issue. So we have like a two, you know, it's 2-on-2 as far as who you guys want to be mayor. It might as well be 1-on-1 because the two trustees going for mayor voting for themselves, obviously, and that's fine. So you guys can also agree that to do something, I don't want to say rash, but you can do something a little bit unconventional, and you could draw straws, or you can do something like that. That happens as well, but you'd have to all agree to do it, and then you'd have to support whatever the outcome was.
How about we don't use your terminology, your interpretation of the law, or however you want to describe the reside, and we do what the whole town describes as reside. And Tom, I think that the public majority speaks that you don't live in Pitkin. Maybe you should do the right thing and step down.
Chad?
He had a comment. I don't know if he still does.
Yes,
Pete, are you there?
hear me. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Well, it appears to me there's a lot of concern about properly following the Colorado regulations, which is appropriate. I would point out that some years ago, there was quite a bit of consternation about who was voting in the community as to whether or not they resided. But as the attorney has explained, they were qualified electors based upon their statement of primary residence. However, going forward, I'm wondering if the attorney has any concerns that the contemplated action this evening falls outside of the statutory requirement that a replacement occur within 60 days of the resignation. 60 days lapsed last Friday. That's my final comment. Thank you.
So, thank you, Pete. Shall I answer that question just a little bit? 2022, that is pretty much the language of that particular statute. 2023, they changed the verbiage a little bit. And the issue there was if a council did not have a quorum so they could appoint, then within 60 days, then the clerk would organize a special election. In the meantime, if somehow this council was able to come up with a quorum
and I don't know how that would work, but for whatever reason, prior to the election, then they could appoint that person. And so the 60 days was more about having a quorum than it was about appointing, because you can appoint prior to an election, which would have exceeded the 60 days. So the verbiage changed just a little bit. And I had to look that one up myself also.
Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
I would like to ask the clerk to review with the board what the timeline will be for a special election.
Yeah, can you?
Sure. So with regard to a special election, statute decrees that we can hold a special election on any Tuesday, except, because we have a general election upcoming, we cannot call, which needs notice in the paper, a special election within 60 days prior to the general election. So that means that any time between September 5th and November 5th, we cannot call the election. And the election cannot be held 32 days prior or 32 days after the general election. So I think that puts us at the earliest possible date might be December the 10th. However, that actually might not be correct depending on when we can call or notice the election. It might have to be later.
And Sarah and board, I would want to see, I have
Clay, I'm not sure if you can hear us, but you have frozen.
of exception to the
Right.
60-day appointment rule.
I'm sorry to interrupt. You froze right after you said Sarah and board.
Oh, can you guys hear me?
We can now.
Okay. My concern is I have not seen an exception to the 60-day appointment rule. And if there's a new exception that I missed in the past, half a year or so, that would be on me. So, if you would forward that to me, I think Mayor Pro Tem Gibbs said that the 60-day exception something new has come out or some new interpretation. I have not seen that. I'd like to see that. Otherwise, there is, my understanding, at least until this moment, was there's a strict 60-day appointment requirement.
I can email it to you.
Thank you. And that's just, I'm not saying that's what it is. I'm just saying I haven't been re-educated on that particular piece yet. But
Okay, so to answer the question, then Sarah, you say it would be sometime on Tuesday in December would be.
That would be the earliest, the soonest. Yeah.
Mr.
Go ahead, Joe.
This is not good for this town at all. And putting this off until December, if that's what it is, or later, or a little earlier, this is not good. And sometimes the letter of the law does not make common sense. So there has to be some kind of better solution to this for the betterment and the good of this town. What can we do tonight? Does anybody on this board have it within their power tonight to rectify this situation? As in, I don't know, if Tom would agree to step down or pull his name from the mayorship, or or if I resign tonight, can we do some? There has to be something done that's better than this conundrum we are in.
Good. May I? Sorry. Are you done, Jerry?
I guess.
Okay, good.
The only resolution that I see to tonight is that either Tom or myself pull our name out of the hat. Honestly, I refuse to pull my name out of the hat because I know 100% town the last 12 months. Tom cannot say that with a straight face and look at anyone in the eyes and say, I've lived here 12 consecutive months. I'm sorry, but that's the facts.
Corey, you've been standing up here anxiously waiting. Go ahead.
Yeah, good evening, Corey Nasso. I'm not here to debate residency or time or anything, but I would ask, this was one of the reasons I threw my name in the hat for, town trustee is be respectful of everybody's time in here. There's been a ton of discussion about something and you guys are going in circles. It appears you guys voted, you're where you're at. Let's figure out where the special election is and let's move on. I'd also urge you guys, until there's a full board, handle town business, put off the stuff that doesn't need to be taken care of right now. I don't know how better to word that, but there's obviously things on the agenda that the town is just town business. Until you have a full board and you have the various opinions I think are needed on some of the other contentious issues, I think it would be ideal for you four to wait. But I would say fair up to date is just get on with it. Let's quit debating. There's a bunch of people sitting in this room who have been sitting there for an hour and there's nothing been accomplished. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Ramon?
Could I rise to the point of order? I'm not sure. I'd have to read the thing, but we have people online that would like to speak before a motion is made.
You have a hand up there somewhere?
We just had a hand come up. It's Susie. Go ahead, Susie.
Okay.
Susie, did you have a comment?
Okay.
Is if you are, can you guys hear me or not so much?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, is be sure that you are not voting for someone because you're close to
I would just go on.
No.
She's having audio.
to really be an important decision that you make based on other than friendship. And that's all I needed to say. Thank you. Bye.
Could you repeat that, Susan?
Can I repeat it? Yeah. I'm I'm in Utah on my way to California to see my girls, but I'm also a little croaky from the air. But what I'm saying is that it's very important for all trustees to make their votes for various people based on what is best for the people of the town and the welfare, the health welfare of the town and the people in it, not based on whether a certain person is your closest friend or a good friend, whatever. It needs to be thinking this through, that you are there on the board because you are a town trustee, meaning you're not just there to vote whatever, what you'd like to see. You need to vote what is best for the town of Pitkin. That's my advice. Thank you. Bye.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem? I think this whole thing could have been avoided if we could have had our meeting last month. I really take issue to the fact that every trustee on this board was not willing to meet last month.
Ramon, you have something to say?
I'd like to make a motion, if you'll rule that in order.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion that we direct the clerk to set a time and proceed with holding a special election
to fill the vacancy of the mayor. Okay, we have a motion. All right, then I'm gonna second it.
Oh, wow.
And we'll see how it comes down.
Pretend marriage till December.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of directing the town clerk to organize a special election? Say aye. 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 And those opposed?
Nay.
Hey,
Okay. No special election upcoming?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I still would like to request you to withdraw your name from mayorship, please.
I'll make the same request to Ed. I'm sorry, Ramon, I didn't understand that. What?
Shut up.
She's requesting that you withdraw your name. I'll request that Ed withdraw his name. Oh, let's not start that. Well, I mean,
You don't live here.
let's move along with what we're supposed to be doing,
I live here more than
which is the town business. All right.
Right. So, and just so everybody's clear, because it sounded like that was a split vote, the clerk has to set it for election if you guys don't appoint. And so it doesn't matter if you vote or not. The clerk has to set it. And there is in the new statutory language, that's correct. If you decide, if you guys can now change your minds though, which is I think that's a beautiful thing, because it used to be once the election was set, that was that. But now if somebody were to change their minds before the election, you can appoint. And so, but regardless, the clerk has to set it for special election now if there's no appointment.
I had forgotten that. Thank you, I had forgotten that. All right.
Can I say one thing?
Yes, Bob, please.
Hey, I really don't have a big dog in the sense that I'm not a permanent resident, except for Court Street properties. And my question is, why cannot we appoint or vote for another council member so that we can have a full quorum and vote? What does it take to appoint the council member that, according to the attorney, does not exist, but now we're in a conundrum where we can't even make a choice? Mr. Attorney, what is the law regarding filling this alleged vacant trustee position?
So, okay, I'll answer that if the board would like me to.
Please.
So what you got there's no vacant trustee position, so you cannot appoint a trustee. You have to appoint a mayor and then appoint the vacant trustee position. The only way to do it would be, like I described, would be to do a trustee shuffle. If whoever does that trustee shuffle, and listen to me, this is chess thinking, but you need to think a couple moves ahead. The only way to do it is for somebody to resign their position as trustee and then fill it with, and then shuffle the mayor, then have that person resign. So everybody would have to be on board. Because you have a 2-on-2 split board, the first person to resign is you're going to give majority to the other side, and then that person can make a motion to fill the mayor's seat. So just my point is the bifurcation on the board right now is not conducive to doing anything which would take the four of you in concert to shuffle out a mayor into a trustee position, because it would have to do with voluntarily stepping down and with the understanding that you were going to voluntarily appoint that person a couple moves ahead. Because you
Mr.
don't have
Attorney.
consensus, there's no way you can do it.
Mr. Attorney, but we're sitting here in a conundrum. Okay, there's no town business that's gonna be able to happen with a split board as we sit right now. So,
Well,
You
can,
know.
the board can vote they can either wait for the special election, or I mean, this isn't statute. I'm not making this up. I totally understand your point. I agree with you. However, the statute is clear on how this works. If you can't appoint, then, and this would happen on a 7-person board too. So this is not like oops, we shouldn't have 5 people. This could happen the same way on a 7-person board. If you can't appoint, it goes to special election. You have until the special election to appoint. You can't appoint a trustee into a position that doesn't exist. So you're stuck. The only other way to do it would be to creative and do like like I said, do some sort of draw to avoid the special election. But if the panel here, the board doesn't vote a majority vote to do a drawing of straws or a ball out of a hat or whatever you guys want to do, then you're stuck until the election.
Thank you, Attorney Bookman. Okay, we are going to move on because there is town business that we can take care of. And besides appointing trustees and mayors. So the next item, 8.4, is review the treasurer's report and discuss on the 2024 August disbursements. Did everybody look through that?
There's one addition. I did not get Attorney Buckner's fee. So his monthly fee of $900 is added to this month's disbursements.
Okay. So we had a total of I'm on the wrong side of the page. So we add to our total the attorney's fee, and that was how much?
$900.
Okay, thank you. Everybody get a chance to look through this? Any questions? All right, if there are no questions, I would entertain a motion to accept the Town of Pitkin Treasurer's Report.
This is Jara, and I so move.
This is Ed, I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Moving on to item 8.5, discuss with possible action allowing the Pitkin Hotel to assume responsibility and ownership of the street light at Main and Florida. Are you not getting enough light down there, Bob? What's the deal?
all right.
Come talk to us.
Okay. Hello. Hey. All right, so there's a street light in the front right corner of the hotel. And our request is that we pay for that electricity via the hotel's meter. And what that would do would eliminate 2 tracks of
Overhead
lines, one being the one that's along the hotel and the other one being along toward Tom's house. And it would alleviate both of those. And plus, it would save the town of Pitkin money having to pay for that electricity. And we're gonna be forward, we would pay for that.
Thank you, Bob.
That's my story.
All right, board members, is there any discussion?
I have a question, please.
Yes, please.
So the reasoning is to get rid of the lines and the poles?
That's the main reason.
For aesthetic.
Yes, for aesthetic purposes, alleviating 2 runs of overhead lines. It's definitely aesthetics. And again, it would save the town of Pitkin money. Good.
Where do those lines run from?
They run from the front corner right of the hotel back to the back right corner. And then it goes to the right along the alley to another pole. And that pole on the right is one that actually powers that to the street lamp. That's where the transformer is. So we would alleviate those 2 lines in favor of us digging underground right from the telephone pole directly to our hotel, which is only 20 feet. And we would run that line underground and we would pay for that electricity ourselves and claim the aesthetics that we would gain from that. You never know, somebody might get on the balcony and decide that they want to jump off and grab that telephone line and hang from it. It's a liability issue also.
I don't have any problem with, getting the lines underground. But the street lights are a responsibility of the town. And, and they're there for the safety, obviously. Yeah, sure, I share your concerns. I wouldn't want to see someone jump off the balcony and grab that line. But at the same time, I wouldn't want to see someone go to your junction box and lift the breaker off and turn the light on. So.
Well, the junction box would be inside our basement, which is inaccessible.
Well, I would suggest that the town request Johnson County Electric to bury that line. And if it's at our expense, so that I understand, and I agree with, getting rid of those lines if we can, but I think the street light needs to remain under the jurisdiction of the town.
Well, we're not going to change anything with the ongoing on and off switch for that light. It's basically on a solar photocell. So, it comes on at night, it shuts off during the day. And there's no reason that we would want to shut it off because it provides security to our parking lot.
No, I'm not saying that you would. It's simply a matter that this is a function of the town, and I think it should remain that way. And that I think that we should try to cure
if you want to go on
the problem of the lines. And
if you want to go underground, Mr. Ramon, you'd have to go from our front corner all the way to the transformer post, which is, 250 feet away underground with a line, and that electricity costs a lot of money to move those. It takes a lot of money to dredge that and to provide the cable to maneuver that line over.
Well, I think that's what needs to be done. Any other thoughts up here on the board?
Well, this isn't my forte. This is not my forte. So I'm not totally understanding.
Okay, so
I apologize.
So there's a street light.
I know about the street lights.
Okay, and it's powered by the line that runs adjacent, parallel to the right side of the hotel.
Yes.
To another pole, and then it goes to the right down the alley to the transformer that powers that. So we would be alleviating both of those overhead lines, and we've created an underground line that's 20 feet directly to our hotel, and we would pay for the actual power that use it. Otherwise, according to what Ramona's suggesting, would have to dig underground for probably 250, 300 feet and provide the cable to provide that power. And to me, it's a solid business move not to do that, because if you want to pay for that, talk about several $1,000s to dig up, create another line to that other pole.
But what you're proposing, is it not possible for the town to retain, I don't know if it's ownership or whatever, maintenance of those poles with you doing what you want to do anyway?
Sure, if y'all want to maintain the light that we're providing the power for, that's fine.
I mean, if you were gonna pay, I'm so sorry, I tell you, it's not my forte, but like, we can't maintain the town's,
He's paying for the electricity, Jared. Then it's his light.
yes, I understand that. I just didn't know if all you want to do is get rid of the lines, right?
Yeah. We would pay for the power for that street light.
Yeah, and I thought that sounded good, but you're also gonna be doing some digging, which I thought sounded
Well,
good.
there's 20 feet from that post to where the basement is.
I don't have any problem with that. I just didn't know if it,
Matter of fact, we already have the conduit from that pole run to our meter, to our breaker panel underneath the basement. It's already there waiting for the town's approval.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes, go ahead.
So just to clarify, that line coming from the transformer that makes the L shape, that feeds nothing besides the
No.
light.
Nothing.
Okay.
So
According to the electric company, that's the truth, yes.
So when I saw this, I'm gonna disagree a little bit here with Ramon. His position is that responsibility and ownership for lighting in the town belongs to the town. And I appreciate that. You have got a huge investment down there. And responsibility and ownership of a street light for your own security is probably of more interest to you than some of these other lights in town that are the responsibility and ownership of the town.
Yes, sir.
So I thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
And we'll discuss it up here, and then we'll take another comment or two, and then we'll have a vote.
I'm clear on.
You good with it? You understand everything going on here?
enough, I guess.
Ramon understands what's going on. Understands it. Okay, we have a couple comments here, looks like. Jesse, go ahead.
Jesse Garrettson, as being an ex-street commissioner, and overhead lines are dangerous. Anytime you want to spread any gravel or anything that's over 13 feet high, you have jeopardy of electrical problems with overhead lines. If we can eliminate almost, well, we get close to a full block of overhead line, just think of how much savings of getting rid of liability and those things. Thank you.
Mr. Adams.
I just thought of another solution that may save everybody some money, and that would be if the town would be willing to just convert that light to solar. And then Bob could just take out the wires, and the town's still responsible for the light, has control for the light. And Bob gets what he needs down there, which is getting rid of the wires.
Thank you, Mr. Adams.
That may not be the only practical reason for doing it. I don't know, maybe Sarah, you do, you pay the bill, but who actually owns the streetlights in town? Do we, or does Johnson County Electric? They put them in, they install them.
I don't know the answer to that question. I can reach out and ask.
And so maybe what Todd just suggested might be the only solution that we can do Otherwise, I would guess that it would take permission of Gunnison County Electric to change the.
I do know that Mr. Taylor has been in contact with the electric company, and they sent an email that said that it had to be approved by the town. So it didn't sound like they had any, anything against the idea.
So they said it had to be approved by the town, but they put no other parameters on it.
I don't believe so. Mr. Taylor would have the answer. He's saying no. That's all that I saw from GCEA was that it required board approval.
Weren't you up here just a minute ago?
Yes, but it brought up another item.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Jess Garrettson again, down at the Candy Nassau Memorial Gazebo. Visiting with Brian from Gunnison County Electric. Eventually, there will be a yard light on that pole down there that they will put in and maintain, but we will pay for the electricity, the town. So I'm pretty sure they own the lights. And they come around and replace bulbs and stuff, and we never get a bill.
We to get a bill. It ends up being a wash because we have a franchise agreement with GCEA. I found the email from GCEA. May I read it?
Yes, please.
Okay, it says, well, this is to Mr. Taylor. Can I read the email?
Yes.
It says, Bob, if you can get the town to agree to letting you have the pole and light, GCEA is in agreement also. This would then become your light and pole, and you would be responsible for the repairs, replacement, and upkeep of these two items. We would need a letter from the town agreeing with this, and then I would take the light and pole off their franchise agreement list.
Take it off the franchise agreement. Okay, thank you.
Which that financially would, like Mr. Taylor said, that would be a benefit to the town.
Are you ready for a motion, Mayor Pro Tem?
I believe we are.
So I make a motion that we allow the Pitkin Hotel to assume responsibility and ownership of the street light at Main and Fourth. Is that, or is it two lights?
One light.
One light at Main and Fourth.
I will second that motion. This is
Okay.
it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor of the Pitkin Hotel assuming responsibility and ownership of the light per GCEA's letter of approval? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No. Okay.
Sorry, can I clarify, Trustee Reed, was that an opposition or you were not opposing? Did you vote in favor?
I stated aye.
You did, I didn't hear you, I apologize.
Okay, so we have, I guess we can appoint our town clerk to respond with a letter of this approval. All right, number 6-8. 8-6, I'm sorry. So this is discuss with possible action approving an easement request from Lumen CenturyLink to place a utility line, and they sent us a letter and they sent us a diagram. And all of you have looked at the letter and the diagram. And
Just a quick additional piece of information. In an email, they did also state that if the board approves the easement, that they will order a survey.
a survey of
To ensure that their line is going in town right away.
that they are on the town right. So we got here because this line was not on town right away. And it got cut. And then the owner was reluctant to let them patch it up on his property. Is that how we got here?
Correct.
Okay. Is there any discussion from the board on this subject?
So I do have two questions, if I may.
Yes.
The first question is, does this easement agreement prevent any other companies, let's say another telephone company, comes into town, does that prevent them from getting an easement as well? It sounded like it gave them full easement agreement. And I don't know if.
Yeah, so I had kind of on the same lines as that question, because it includes aerial lines, poles and cables. And what they have requested and what they have sent pictures of is underground trench of approximately 309 feet. And I have no problem with an underground trench of 390 feet. And I'm sure this is a standard easement agreement, but maybe I'm with you. I do not want to be exclusive of, and I don't know how, you know, can you dig another line in just as long as you stay out of the neighbor's, your competition's line or some other service line? Yeah, so are those questions valid enough to request a little more clarity on this?
So I think the board would have the option of having the attorney review the requests, and then the board can change the easement. This is town property and they're asking for an easement. So if you don't like what it says, you change it to what you like and give it back to them. And if they want it, then they can sign it.
My preference would be to have the town attorney look at the agreement and see what his recommendation is for it, or the verbiage in it. Is it? Yes.
Yes, and so I would go along with Ed on that, and the two questions are that my question has to do with things above ground. Ed's question has to do with additional things below ground. And anybody else got any concerns here?
I do have one more question or maybe comment just based on the drawing. In that part of town, State Street is scooted way over to, I guess I'll call it the south side.
Creek side.
The creek side of the town property. Would it be better for the town company and the town to have that easement or have that line, placed on the other side of State Street where there's more area for that easement? Because I believe where they're showing the drawing there, I'm guessing from the edge of the road to the edge of town property might be 4 or 5 feet. And it might give them more room if it's placed on the other side.
Well, it is a gravel road. And
But we don't want them trenching down the middle of the gravel road.
right, not down the middle, no.
Or even on the edge. I just question.
Well, but you gotta cross somewhere if you do that.
Yeah, which they currently cross already. But it's just a question I have. It seems to me like because State Street is scooted over to the creek side so far, it might be better for them and for the town if it's moved to the. So there's the edge, there's what the property line. And it's only up 4 or 5 feet.
So yours didn't come out in color either.
I didn't, yeah.
Two of those lines are color.
Here.
There doesn't involve two, because that line does continue past Plum Street. I believe the line, I went up and looked at it yesterday. I know that the line goes up to at least the two properties that are northeast of town on the county road. And at that point, it also crosses the road overhead. And it provides both telephone and electricity, I believe, to the other side of the road above town. But the telephone line, I'm pretty certain on the opposite side of State Street ends within the town.
So here I've got.
So what they're asking for is probably the only practical way to do it. The map that they provided is not very clear. I do have another map if people want to look at it, because the street there, what is referred to as State Street, is not the original platted State Street. There was a trade done in, not positive the date, approximately 2003, I believe, that traded some property on 12th Street to the owner of the property, where the existing roadway veers off of the platted State Street.
Impossible.
And, and that's where this easement they're asking for would have to be placed, is on that property, which is not the original town State Street, but it's the State Street that was obtained.
So I take it it's the green
frontage.
is the one that.
If you want to see that, I can show it to you. The plat from the trade that's more clear.
Okay. All right, so it looks to me like, what they've requested is doable with just a little short stretch section across. And keeps it on that side of the street. So I'm gonna say my only questions are in regards to the first two that we came up with, not moving it across the street. Any more discussion up here on this?
Maybe the property owner can, adjacent to this, can explain more than we know about. Standing up there.
Oh, Mr. Barnell, would you like to make a comment?
Where they're talking about doing this easement, there's also underground power lines that run through there. Maybe you guys should ask for a copy of their liability insurance before you allow them to work on the property. Because after the line was cut, two guys in a pickup with an excavator show up with no logo, no company shirts. Looks just like a couple plumbers showed up. And I said, you guys are not digging until you get me a copy of your liability insurance. I asked for it, requested it, it never showed up.
And then they, what, left and went away and you never saw them again?
They ran a temporary line. My thing is that, and then I'd like to ask, just to clarify, so Ramon, they do trade town property if there's a road going through it? I mean, that happened, you said in your own words, in 2003? Yes?
I had nothing to do with it.
Did the town trade property where the towns had a road going through the property? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to, Mr. Vardell might have to answer some more questions, because I don't know the whole, where this problem came from. I understand that you're the one who cut the line. Is that true?
I was digging a fence post on my property, 4 inches inside of my property, and there was a line cut, yes.
Did you go through the 811 process before you cut that line to know that it was there?
No, I called 811 and they never showed up. I waited 72 hours like the law requires. I dug my fence post. They never showed up.
Interesting.
Any more questions?
Well, yeah, I have a question for our attorney, I guess, because I don't understand, I don't know about the entire process, but I'm concerned because I know there are a lot, and when I say that, a lot is certainly not an exaggeration. There are a lot of buried lines within the town of Pitkin. And if knowing where those lines are is a problem, it's a safety issue that we ought to deal with. And I don't know the background of how these things work. I know that 811 exists to call. You see it on television where, you know, lines get cut or can be, doesn't be telephone, sewer, electric, whatever. But I'd like to hear from our attorney, you know, where this comes from and what's, you know, what can the town do to, you know, to ensure this type of thing doesn't happen or prevent it.
Let me help you out a little bit.
No,
As long as,
wait.
no, you were
No.
As long as they provide me liability insurance, they're more than welcome to come and fix the line. If this is a corner marker, and they cut the corner. I'm okay with them cutting the corner. I'm okay with them fixing it, but they need to provide liability insurance first.
I can't address that because I'm not part of that company and never will be. So, but I'd like to know from our attorney how we prevent this type of thing from happening and what is the legal aspect of this whole 811 process, because it exists all over town.
I put up about 80 flagpoles this year. I've called 811, or people that work with us have called 811. You literally have to babysit these people. If you want them to come out, you've got to be with them, holding their hand, and they'll come out and mark where they think the line is. But the lines are all over the place, just like the surveys are just like all over the place.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Barnell, and I'm going to respond to Mr. Reed. There is no way you can make someone call 811. What happens is, and I think we discussed this earlier, if you punch one of those lines, and you didn't call or you didn't get whatever. So this has been my experience. I punched a line and they came out and they fixed it and I paid the bill. That's how that worked. So, I think probably frequently that's how that works. I've dug up phone lines. I've hit power lines. I have hit things that were not where I thought they were supposed to be. And I was so sure of myself. And that's what happens. So, anyway, back to approving an easement request. Now, what if Mr. Barnell here has said, if you would show me your, what was it, liability?
General liability insurance.
Insurance, some way demonstrate to me that you have that. And so then my inclination would be, well, okay, why can't we just get that, let it fix it where it is and not dig a trench for how many feet? And impinge upon who knows what. 309. Is that off the wall? Is that irregular for me to suggest that? Or should we just, I'm not clear what you suggest. Well, so Mr. Barnell just got up and said, had they shown me that they were actually who they said they were, and they had the liability and a piece of paper with liability insurance showing that they were actually qualified to do what they were here to do, that he'd let them do it. And my question is, well, how come that didn't happen? It's just a second trip, and you're not digging in 390 foot of trench. I can give you an answer to that. Well, please do. They have no liability insurance. They are self-insured. Well, then, literally.
Just do good paper.
But if that's the case, then they should be a letter to that effect. They should be able to show that.
But it has to extend to the subcontractor they send on property.
Yeah.
That's the key.
Yeah,
The liability has to include the subcontractor coming on property.
Well, okay, so we're going to approve here a thing. And so I hesitate to just converse with our congregation here, but, oh, well.
I do.
Go ahead, Ed.
I have another, I guess I have another question hitting me is the telephone company is now asking for an agreement, an easement agreement for a telephone line that was put in and was cut. Why didn't they have an easement agreement to begin with?
I don't know. I think.
That,
A lot of, well, that came up in my brain too, because, everything that runs anywhere, typically, sometimes in a town, they manage to get some sort of blanket agreement, you know, we're running a phone line and so I don't know.
That was proposed actually to this board. I don't know how long ago, a number of years ago, to create a blanket easement certainly along State and Main Street, but the board never took any action on it. So that's what I know about the history of it.
So the question really is, so the telephone, not really the question, the statement is the telephone company put the line in without an easement agreement.
Most likely, yeah.
And that's disturbing.
I've never heard until this, anything about where the telephone lines are buried. I can see where they're overhead. But I'm unaware of any easement that has existed in the past and this, you know, CenturyLink is only the newest of several telephone companies that have provided our service. Goes back to Mount Bell and US West and I'm not sure what all, but and you know, some of it boils down to we want telephone service because no one else seems to be, you know, knocking on the door to provide it. CenturyLink has told us that, you know, they will not upgrade any equipment in the town of Pitkin. And the equipment that they do have is very old and very difficult to replace, as we found out when we had a telephone outage that lasted over a week. So, you know, and actually, I think the reason that this came about at this point, you know, because, am I right, Mr. Vernell, that the line was broken about 10 months ago?
It was right when it started getting cold. It was right when it was starting to get cold.
Last year.
October last year. And my guess is the reason that finally something is being done about it, other than just laying the line on the ground, which is what was done, is because it's a new company now. CenturyLink has been bought out by, Lumen, and they're even bigger, and also self-insured is what I've been told. So that's what we're dealing with.
But on here it says Quest. On the
Quest.
The agreements with Quest.
Okay, so, so the question is the easement exclusive? I'm not interested in overhead anything. And is Exhibit A the site and length of the easement agreement, or does this extend further just because of the way it's written? The following property located in the county of Gunnison, state of Colorado, which grantor owns easement tract. See the description set forth on Exhibit A, and by this reference made a part of this agreement. And I don't quite know what that exactly means. Then we have here, that we will not alter the surface or subsurface of the easement tract. Or the ground immediately adjacent to it. If we're gonna disturb gravel roadway, that's not a good
Amen.
call. Anybody got any suggestions here?
Get them the private right and just fix it.
I don't know, other than, maybe have the attorney look at this easement and,
Narrow it down, tighten it up,
yeah.
tell them they might, if they're gonna be on the road, then we're gonna be graveling over top of it.
Yeah, I mean, I have personally no experience with easements of pretty
Well,
much any type.
Once
so-
this stuff goes underground, that's typically where it is until it gets run into somehow. So underground is not really a problem under gravel. You're not gonna hit it again, likely. But the part about we're not gonna disturb, we're not gonna rearrange, we're not gonna.
I mean, I believe there's a problem on the other side as well. The opposite side, not giving them this easement and not getting the telephone line underground is a problem. Because apparently, and this is all, just information that I've been given from some people who work in the industry. Having that line overground has caused multiple telephone problems, even though it's reconnected, but just being overground, number one. And I didn't know this until I got this easement request and started asking questions and doing some things. There's apparently a serious problem in town that's a function of the telephone lines with 911. And, it's, to me, it's maybe the biggest safety issue that we've ever encountered, because 911 is not working properly in the town of Pitkin. And I think that, we're kind of under a barrel to do what we can to get it working right, which I can't tell you what the total solution is, but I'm told that a part, at least, of the problem is this line. And because it's not what it was originally. So, so it's something I think needs to be dealt with. I don't know how to do it because I don't have, the knowledge of things like this easement. To me, it sounded weird, but, I talked to someone in Gunnison who said, no, that's pretty standard. What sounded weird to me is, I think about the last sentence in that, I don't have the copy right now, says that after we agree to the easement, they will do a survey. To me, that's backwards. The survey ought to be done, and then we know exactly what we're giving an easement to. But I've been told that, no, that's pretty standard operation, at least in that business. And we have to understand, we're little bitty Pitkin, and we operate under the statutes like other towns. We do what we can, but in cases like this, we're dealing with companies that, overshadowed, you know, not just Pitkin, but the county and the state for that matter. And so I don't know where, you know, if we're just in a pickle and we agree to it and be done with it, or if there's something that we, you know, need to look at further. That's why I suggest, you know, if our town attorney Sarah, has he received a copy of this?
He does have a copy, but just as of this evening.
Because, you know, that's the only thing I know to do. You know, people that I've talked to, it is not official and they don't have any direct connection with Lumen. So I'm just telling you the information that I found out, and I don't think it's enough.
Exceptions.
Yes.
Okay, Jesse, we'll listen to you and then I'm gonna make a request to the attorney here.
Thank you. In behalf of the streets and the ditches and the culverts and the crossings and all these things in my past experience, get them to make a 4-foot around that place where the air is and furnish their liability so that Mr. Chad Barnell is happy and get it done. We don't tear up any roadways, we don't tear up any culverts, we don't tear up any crossings, we don't tear up any gravel. There's a whole lot left for the town of Pitkin to fix. If they just do that little 4-foot jumper around that little place where there's a gap. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Okay. I believe, that was somewhat the same point I questioned earlier. I think it's a good point. Would we like to try that?
I'd say we go that route first with the phone company. Let them provide the liability insurance from their subcontractor. If they're agreeable to do that, then we don't need to do the easement. If they don't want to do that, then we need to be prepared to send this easement agreement to the attorney to have more information on.
Well, right. So my question was going to be, if we send this to the attorney, then we want this easement, whatever goes in over there, not to be necessarily exclusive and not to be overhead and to be of a duration that they show in Exhibit A. And also in the event that the installment of this actually finds itself on a or below a driving surface, they can expect that there will be grading and gravel over it. In the event that it's not, then I don't know that they would have to worry about anything.
So I guess what I was saying is let's attack.
Let's try the first one first, right?
Well, let's attack it at two different angles, possibly at the same time. Give the phone company the option to come out, give the liability insurance and repair it. If they decide they don't want to do that, then at the same time, we have the attorney looking at this. Yes, it's going to cost us money to have the attorney look at it. But I think also in that easement agreement, I think Mr. Barnell brings up a good point. The town needs to have liability insurance from CenturyLink or Lumen to make sure they're covered and it's not on us. Should they hit a power line and someone gets killed.
Okay.
You know, we don't. I haven't seen it because I wasn't on the board when it was done, but we do have it's a franchise agreement with Gunnison County Electric. And it includes easements for lines. And I've never heard, I know there certainly was no discussion when that was done, because I was in attendance at the meeting, that I doubt there's liability insurance included in that agreement, but you know, and you know, I think it's a real quandary because it's we need it. We should get it fixed. Doesn't have to be fixed at all, but it's to the town's benefit to have this line fixed. And You know, that's when Sarah made this, this agreement available to us. You know, all it did is raise questions with me. And so I don't know, and I do have one offer from a person who I consider an expert in the industry to meet with us and explain details. But he would rather do that in a work session or something like that. He wasn't willing to come to a meeting tonight. But so I don't know where we go, but I really, you know, I don't want to give the impression to Lumen that we're demanding this or no deal, because I want them to continue phone service in Pitkin. And if they decide otherwise, we can't stop them. Right,
So I don't believe on either options that I spoke of, we're demanding that Lumen do this or that. We're giving them, the first option is if they provide a liability insurance to Mr. Varnell, they fix it and it's done and over. If they decide not to do that, then I think we have to have the town attorney look at the agreement to make sure that we're in good standing.
So I would prefer reversing that with the attorney first. Because as I told you, and I think that this is, you know, I don't have documentation on it, but I think it's true. They do not have liability insurance, period. They're an enormous company. They self-insure.
They still have documentation on that.
And I'm not worried about. Okay. You can ask them for something that they're not gonna provide. And this is, so here's my question. And I think we can send a letter of request stating our concerns, which would be that since you're operating on private property, if you had a letter that says even a self-insured company has letters. With that, then you're only going to have to dig a small hole to fix this. Right. And we think that would be much preferable to what was it? 490 feet, 390? Right. It was quite a bit. That's my thought. I think we ought to make a request of them. Give some assurance here and come out and dig a hole and patch this line. So I suppose we need a recommendation that we instruct our. Sarah, you need more work, don't you?
We can do this. I have their email address, so it'd be pretty easy.
Okay. So is anybody in disagreement with this approach? Go ahead. Okay. We don't have to have a vote to do that, do we? Do we need a vote to instruct you to go after more information?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
We're not doing the agreement.
No, not till we did that.
Right.
All right, let's do it. And then we move to item number 5.9, responding to the zoning board recommendation of a fence permit appeal for 428 State. And this was tabled from June 2024. And I believe that we have received from Mr. Varnell a diagram and that he would like to present this. Am I correct or not? It's presented on paper. All right, thank you. Let me see if I can find mine.
Everybody gets to look at this before the meeting.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
In the meeting or in the minutes, I forget what, there were so many.
We had quite a few,
We
yes.
just went through that. There's a reference to this that stated that you and Ed were going to go look at this, and I think.
Would it be okay for Ed and I to go look at it? Yes. That was referenced, and that did not happen. We did not go together. Well, I'm pretty sure Ed went down there and looked at it.
I'm not.
Huh?
Cause I thought after our meeting, I thought we were gonna get Mr. Vardell and go down there. as
I went down there
together.
and looked at it.
Because I'll tell you what's missing from my perspective is looking what we were presented. I don't see where the actual roadway is.
So, okay, I'll throw in my 2 cents. So, Mr. Varnell bought a piece of property that had a track across it that had been there a long time. And, our attorney affirmed several times that this, track complied with the Colorado statute of being a public thoroughfare or highway. This track utilizes approximately somewhere between 125 and 150 square feet of crossing there of what Mr. Varnell wishes were his. The point from the attorney was that this use of this property went away a long time ago for anything other than public right of way.
Well, I returned it.
So it was there with the previous owner, it was there with the owner before that, and it's still there. And so what we have is the Colorado statute, and no one before ever complained, and so it is solid, and it's just the way things are. Now, so I believe his verbiage was that the town owns it by constructive use. That means it's just been driven on for so long that that's what it is. Mr. Varnell here has proposed a land swap. And this land swap, in my opinion, is hugely excessive. If you were going to trade it, and this is just it, but if you were going to trade 125 to 150 feet of ground down here off the corner, why would you expect to trade for more than that? And so what I see here is a offer to trade 712 square feet on the bottom end for 712 square feet up against Fifth Street with 0 setbacks on the lower end of the property. And with the caveat of the line there being a 0 setback, the one created by the trade. I don't see this as doable at all. I don't see it as a benefit for the town. I see it as excessive, hugely excessive for what we're dealing with. And
because he didn't want an offset, you're thinking it's excessive?
His math and my math are different, and I
I'm
really.
just trying to understand what you're saying.
so that's my take on it. I don't see this as doable. Any other thoughts from the board?
If I go back to the agenda, what's on the agenda?
Right.
And the agenda is to discuss possible action responding to the zoning board recommendation on a fence permit appeal for 428 State Street.
Yes.
What that recommendation was is recommendation was to the Board of Trustees from the zoning board that we either approve the fence with the 5-foot setback building permit, or we recommended doing a land swap. And the land that's going to be swapped from the area that's being moved to the area off of Fifth Street is something the town will not use based on where the current bridge is. I think that's one of our two options are either to approve the building permit, to let the fence be constructed 5 feet off the property line, or we approve the land swap. When you look at the 15 feet of Courts Lane at that area, from the pin from one side of the street to the other side of the street, it is no different than Courts Lane all the way down through my property, all the way on up through the other part of town. 15 feet is what the Courts Lane is with a 5-foot setback on both sides of the lane all the way through town. So my recommendation is to approve the building permit. And if you think the land swap is excessive, then we leave the land where it is and we approve the building permit.
Any other thoughts? Okay, then I'm gonna jump in here because no, not yet. Hang on, you'll get there.
It's your son's house. I don't think you should vote on it.
Hang on, you'll get there. So, what you're approving a building permit on is a public right of way by state statute, and that's dangerous ground. I don't think you got any business going there. So once again, I'm going to say, I do not see this as a benefit to the town per se. And I think it's hugely excessive. It's almost like, somehow or another, since I have this little bit of leverage here because I've got this public right of way across me, I'm gonna hold up the town here for 712 feet over on Fifth Street and dump it off down here on Courts Lane. Now, that's just how I see it. So I disagree with you, Ed. I think this is,
So
that's a bad precedent.
another question for you then, Tom, since you've been down there and you've looked at the property, what do you see the measurements should be then for what's currently being traveled on versus what the property swap should be?
So Mr. Varnell started his first post
Birdhouse.
downstream, first post, at 5 feet off of the property line, which was right on the edge of the grass line. So this is not in the driving surface. This cannot, it's not in the driving surface. It's not in a public right of way. And the next three actually were in the edge of the grass line. And it's not till you get up to that last lot, or maybe, which is 25 feet wide, or maybe 30 feet, that you will find that the drivable surface makes that turn.
Because there's a tree in the city right away.
And it makes a turn for a couple of reasons. And if you look at it on Google Earth, you'll see that one of the reasons the turn is made that way is because of the bridge there. Coming off of the bridge, the guardrails actually stick a foot or 1.5 feet into the platted street line. And to make the turn, come off of that direction and make a turn, or to come off Courts Lane and make a turn to go up Fifth Street across the bridge, you have to swing wide. You just have to. Otherwise, you're doing a 3-point turn there. So that little bit of ground there is hugely important to maneuvering and driving right there in town, not the whole Fourth Street. I mean, not the whole 4 blocks of Quartz Lane, just that little corner, 25 or 30 feet of it. About 12 feet wide once you get to the point there next to the street. So that runs out, as I said, at about somewhere between 125 and 150 square feet, depending on how generously you want to measure that. So if you go down and measure to the grass line, off to the pin, come down 10 feet, measure off the grass line to a string that you've drawn off between those pins, you'll find it gets progressively less until after you get about 30 feet down the street, your Mr. Barnell's 5-foot setbacks that he has set those post office pin is in the grass line and off of the driving surface. So I'm going to advocate that currently Mr. Varnell has got a post planted in a public right of way, or as the state statute says, a public highway. He ought to pull that post before winter right away. And either give up on it or come up with a more agreeable solution. Now, there are some other solutions. Because I noticed here that you're real interested in setbacks. Now, I'll let you give a comment after I get done with this. You could get an agreement that would give you, in the future, at such time as you choose to build, a reduction in the setback off your property line that you're able to build to. And that would be good for you, and it wouldn't impede on this public highway.
Just want to thanks.
Okay, look, Jesse, who are we going to go to first?
I think you ought to listen to the zoning board. You asked the zoning board, the trustees, way back months ago. And we came up with a remedy of a triangle from his downstream pin next to Quartz Lane, an angled up towards State Street, 10 feet off of the pin that exists across from the big tree. 325 square feet. Now, this is all from memory. I was not prepared for this tonight to bring all my minutes from the zoning board. And then take that 325 feet and a given width, I believe it was like 2.35 feet by 115 feet off of 5th Street. And the only thing that we asked the trustees then to do was go ahead and have our attorney give a not, what was that phrase? Not liable or not.
Hold harmless.
Hold harmless, I think.
Hold harmless, that's the word. And then he would still have his 5-foot setback. Everything's been wonderful, and we've made a mountain out of a molehill hill. I don't know how much we paid our attorney to go back and forth. And he told us in the last meeting, I believe it's in, we didn't have a June meeting, that he could draw up an agreement to swap some land and make everybody happy with a win-win deal. Thank you.
Mr. Barnell, you're next.
I don't believe that you should have any say-so in this because you have a personal vendetta against me and you own, your son owns the property directly adjacent to me.
Anything else?
Yes, I think that your tape measure and my tape measure are very different. Maybe you could provide a drawing of your 170 square feet.
It's a triangle.
Okay, so let's just say that you're 170 square foot and I'm just an idiot because I'm not very smart with triangles. I just went to Google. But if we do your triangle, are you still wanting me to follow my 5-foot setback on my fence from your triangle, my triangle? Yes or no?
Think about this just a minute. I'm drawing this in my head.
Wherever you drew.
Well, so wherever
you drew that line, will you let me build my fence on, per your plan, in your head, will you let me build my fence on that line, or are you gonna make me move my fence 5 foot back?
Well, you're asking where my line is.
Yes, wherever your line is, that triangle line on Quartz Lane, wherever your line is, are you allowing me to build my fence on that line? Or are you wanting me to go back 5 feet from that?
No, I would want you to go back 5 feet.
Okay,
from that.
so
Now, wait, no, because my line is more generous than you're imagining.
I don't care. You're telling me that you want to increase the alley from 15 feet to an additional footage, but yet you want me to still do an additional 5 foot off of that. The whole reason for the 5 foot setback was for what, sir?
Snow removal.
Okay, there you go. So if we're gonna have a larger alley than what's originally platted, I'll go with your 125 square foot, whatever it is. If it's gonna be going further back from where it's at right now, there's no reason for a 5 foot setback.
But the reason for a 5 foot setback is you want to snow plow the gravel that's there.
You're just wanting to give extra property to your son.
If I wanted to give extra property for my son, I would have gone along with this.
Exactly my point, but.
No, it's not your point at all. I'm looking out for the town here, Chad, whether you believe it or not. So that's that. Okay.
Let's kick the can another 6 months, a year.
We may kick it,
There
Chad.
you go.
So should I ask at this point, Mr. What?
We don't want a one-man board. You got 3 more people here that ought to contribute.
You want to wait for the attorney or you want to contribute now?
No, I have a comment. I have a couple of comments.
Okay, go ahead.
The first comment I have is at the last meeting, I suggested that you and I and Mr. Barnell go down to that property, look to see where the gravel is, measure it out, and come to a consensus. I was never contacted to go down there. You've said tonight already that you went down there and you took a look at the property and you looked at where the gravel is, you looked at where the pins are. I will caution you on doing that because on my own variance on my property, we were told by the town attorney that no board of trustee or zoning board could go to the property and look at it as that is ex parte communication, and you would then have to recuse yourself from the discussion and from the vote.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, but you've already stated that you've gone down and looked at the property. I think we could have gone down together. Several of us board members could have looked at it, come to a reasonable conclusion, and you've decided not to do that. So it's put you in a quandary if you should even taking any action on this property, A, for ex parte communication, and B, it's a conflict of interest when it's a family member.
Well,
I will let the town attorney weigh in on what I've just stated.
Okay, so I'm going to throw in here one more thing that you forgot to mention. Who denied the fences?
You. The one-man building inspector who reports to the Board of Trustees.
The Board of Trustees. So the one-man building inspector went down there, looked at it and said, whoops, there's a problem here. Now, how did I know there was a problem and you didn't? So I knew from past experience what happens when you have people travel the same track for a number of years. It becomes a public highway. Cows can do it.
I'm sorry, but at that point, because it is across the street from your son, your family member, you should have recused yourself from the building permit, went to the zoning board or the board of trustees.
And what would you have done with it? Here's the thing, see, and this is one of the reasons why you say, why don't I get out of here? And it's because you don't know. There are things you don't know, and you'd have passed this, and you'd have passed this on a public highway.
I'd like to hear the town attorney's comments.
Could
I
I?
think we're gonna.
Could
go
I-
ahead.
Yes, I'm upset because this could have been handled months ago. We asked the zoning board and several of those men worked on this. Even in June would have been, I asked the attorney if there wasn't a win-win situation. After he first said no land swaps and other things, I asked him in open meeting if there wouldn't be an amenable conclusion to this. And he said, yes. I cannot understand how we got here or why, because there is a way to remedy this. And it looks to me like this land swap, which the attorney said could be done if the board decided to do it. This whole thing has gotten off the rails, and I'm not totally sure why.
Okay.
But I would like to hear from the attorney, please.
We are going to ask our attorney, after all this hoorah, hoopla, and discussion here, we'll leave it with that, to weigh in on this. Mr. Booth.
Yes, sir. Sorry, I was messing with my another feed because I'm losing sound. But if you can hear me, I'm going to go ahead and talk. Can you hear me?
Can you speak up a little bit, please?
Sure. Well, you guys have about 20 questions on the table. What I would say is, one, building fence posts in the road is a problem. So, I understand everybody's side here. I also understand that, the road has been used for, like I said, legally the past 50 years at least in that location. I don't think there's any argument that that's continues to be private property for use, according to the original plat. That said, I did and still agree that there's many ways to skin this cat. There's variances, there's land swaps, there's easements, etc. But what I disagree with is the way, I think that it's very dangerous to just let someone do what they want without permission from the board first. So, you guys are kind of at a crossroads. I don't think that, making your own determination and then starting to build without permits, it should be allowable. And I don't think that anybody should be able to, hold that leverage over the town by doing the wrong thing. That said, there's an issue brought up about conflicts. If there's a personal conflict, that's not a per se conflict, meaning, it's a small town. There's going to be people with friends and family that have houses close by. That could or could not be a conflict, and that's going to be up to the individual trustee unless there's some, overt evidence that there's a conflict, meaning if it's their adjacent property or if somebody stands to gain something directly. So if a land swap or dismissing a land swap were to allow a family member to fall into increased land value or and just increased volume, then that could possibly be a personal conflict. I don't know if that's happening here. From the drawings I've seen, it's not happening that way. What I do see is, a current violation of state statute and our town ordinance by the homeowner, and then, meet that homeowner halfway based on the current situation. My suggestion is that the homeowner remove the obstructions in the road to start, and then we all have a conversation about how possibly to make this right. What I will say also is that if you were to plat your town and 20 other towns, you're not going to get perfectly staked roads and houses because plats were mostly made without a lot of geography and topography in mind. My concern being that you could end up, with a road snaking in and out and doing, 20 different easements and variances, based on where the road was built, 50, 100 years ago. So, again, a lot of questions, a lot of issues. I do agree. I do agree with Trustee Garrison. There's probably half a dozen ways to get to an amenable answer here, but I don't feel like we're in a place where that's probably going to happen. I do think that an easement, some sort of easement's possible, some sort of setback agreement's possible, in the form of a land swap is possible. If there's a problem, you could swap land for the entire block on one side for the other. You could do so many different things. But I don't think that you guys are in a great position and to make a good determination because of the current situation.
So, Mr. Buckner, may I ask a question?
Please.
Please explain to me on the ex parte communication where I could not have any board of trustees or zoning board come to my property to look at the property lines, where I was going to locate the building, because it was ex parte communication.
Right.
But yet,
Yep.
Mr.
I'm sorry.
Gibbs taken it upon himself to go down to this property and look at all of it. It puts the rest of us at a great disadvantage. However, as a board, if we could have gone down there to look at it with Mr. Varnell 2 months ago, I don't think we'd be in that situation tonight. But I'd like your input on the ex parte communication aspect of the question.
That's possible. You know, for standard fence permits, typical just that a board would review it. If it's going to be for future variance or easement or some sort of special use review sort of situation that does involve public hearings, yes, that's the advice is that you do not do your own investigation because you've created your own subjective perspective, and that a future hearing you're only supposed to take into account the evidence that's presented to you from town staff and from the interested parties. There are exceptions, and I don't know if that exception exists here, but insofar that certain members of a town board have to take on code enforcement roles or planning and zoning roles, then that person typically would do that, but they would be recused later from making an argument other than just making the staff report and then and presenting the I guess like the staff opinion to the board, but they then wouldn't be able to vote on that opinion. So if we're at the fence permit, I think is one thing. I think a future variance or easement is quite another. And if Mr. Gibb, very well may have excluded himself from a future quasi-judicial function or public hearing on the matter. A fence permit, however, is something completely different, which is just does it meet the town parameters. So I think this is a situation right now where we're kind of mudding, or I don't know exactly what we're talking about. It says it's about a fence permit, but then we have these very complicated drawings that look like land swaps sort of thing. So it's not really a fence permit because the fence is being put into what is right now part of the town's right of way. So, right now I think you're looking at really what you should be talking about right now is the fence permit appeal. And then but depending on this, you're going to have to decide whether you want to do something else like an easement or a variance. But the agenda item is appeal.
And what's concerning is that was the agenda item 2 months ago.
Agenda item that I requested.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I'm here answering that question. I don't set the.
What I requested, I don't know if you can hear me, but what I requested on email was to talk about the land swap, because the fence is irrelevant until we get a property line determination.
Could I say, jump in on that?
Okay.
Okay, regarding land swap. I will show the board all actually, it's hard to see from sitting back there, but I'll show it. This is a survey plat that was done a little over 20 years ago for land swap in the town of Pitkin. This is the plat. I'll explain, because you can't see the detail on here, but this plat clearly shows the private property involved, the street involved, the existing roadway, which was not on the street involved, very similar to this. This, you asked if, which I verified. Yes, the town has done swaps. I have stated that before. This is what, this is what was presented to the town in the request for this swap.
Understandably.
This shows me, and I was not on the board at the time, so I'm looking at this, fresh, but it shows me what was being asked for and what was being traded.
You're 100% correct.
Regarding this item on the agenda tonight, I have this.
Yes, sir. That's called step
Let me
one.
finish, please. That's all I have. I keep hearing things that aren't necessarily true. Jesse, you made a statement earlier that the town board asked the zoning board to deal with this. That is not true. This came directly from Mr. Varnell to the zoning board.
I'm not dealing with that paper right there is what I was talking about.
I'm talking about what we have from the zoning board. And that's fine. But I'm not going to deal with people making things up to sound better from their side. Frankly, this whole thing never should have gone to the zoning board unless it came here first and this board asked the zoning board to deal with it, which never happened.
You haven't understood why it came to the zoning board.
I don't care why it came. Okay, gentlemen. Let's move forward as best we can. I would like to finish. If you could help me, Mr. Chair. What I'm trying to state is that as the town board, we have an obligation to serve the public. And in order to do that, we have to deal with information, especially in cases like this, that is adequate to make proper decisions. We haven't had that. And I keep hearing, oh, you ought to do this because so-and-so, or this, that. All I've done is keep asking for the full information, and I'm not getting it. And I'm not going to speak up, and I'm not going to make a decision on this until I get that information.
Is it my turn? Ramon, I have a question for you. What would you guess the survey would charge for that?
You never called me and I didn't call you.
I don't know. I don't care.
Okay, let's just, I know you don't care. I got that. Thank you for that. That's probably about a $2,000
Yeah, well, we're gonna
to
do.
$4,000 piece of paper.
Now gonna go
And
look
it's
at it.
from the proposal.
You can't go with everybody because.
If
that's
you
called
guys
zoning.
will agree to a land swap, and it says approximately, and it says tentatively pending the survey. If you guys will agree to to a land swap, whether it's 750 square foot or 100 square foot, the next step after y'all agree to that is to go to that and have a surveyor come out and do the proposal. And then the proposal is brought to the board for an approval. But until we have something to go on, I'm not gonna go drop $2,000 or $3,000 on some tentative plan. You have to have some kind of an agreement to move forward.
Okay, I'm dead. Hello. Okay, thank you, Mr. Varnell. I think we are going to.
Table it again.
Yes, but here's how we're gonna do this. Ed and I, because we cannot, the entire board go down there because that's called a board meeting, which we'd have to invite all of you.
Verify with him that we can do that.
Two of us, correct me if I'm wrong, Attorney Buchner, can two of us go down there and look at this and come up with a proposal that we can present to others? Sorry, can you guys hear me? I just switched to my phone. I'm having.
Sorry.
Oh, he's
Can you guys hear me?
he's getting his audio fixed.
Okay. So can
Can you
Ed
guys hear me?
there and do a actual on-site evaluation and come up with a proposal?
I mean, you can, the two of you, if everybody
Can
agrees.
the audience please be quiet? I can't hear the attorney. Clay, can you wait just a second? We've got some audio issues.
Sure.
Because if we can do that, then as Mr. Barnell said, we will have something solid to present to him and he will have something solid to consider. We heard that.
Go ahead, Attorney Booker. I think we've got you back.
Great. How's that? Is that better?
Yes, thank you.
Great. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, Mr. Varnell would have to agree because basically we'd be agreeing to a possible future violation of ex parte rules if he was to be given a quasi judicial hearing on the matter, which, you know, it's problematic. But two, you won't violate open meetings law, but it's technically taking those two trustees out of the loop as far as possible future hearing. But what I would say is that if Mr. Varnell agreed to it on record that he wasn't going to pursue a violation of interest, then you could do it if that's what everybody agrees to, and that's a solution.
Or could we have two zoning board members, myself excluded, go with Mr. Varnell to measure and to plot it, and then see if we can reach an agreement between the three there, then bring that to the board. I mean, I hate kicking this down. We've been playing with this for 6 months. This is.
Did you catch that?
I mean, the reason that it's difficult is because you guys are kind of bending over backwards to help someone, and I admire that, but it's because we're trying to fit square pegs through round holes. The zoning board can go do that, that's fine, but then whoever on the zoning board, which I don't believe is an appellate authority for the Board of Adjustment, and then if the Board of Trustees is making the final decision, that's fine. But there'd just be no appellate authority on the board's decision other than the district court, which is, again, choice if you want to cut out an administrative option. So however you guys decide to do it, I think is fine. You just have to recognize that as soon as you're sending Board of Trustees there, or if you start sending trustees there, they're not going to be able to vote on a quasi-judicial matter in the future.
If we go look.
I'll agree to have any two or any
whatever
trustees, excluding Tom, have his input on it because he has a conflict of interest on the subject. Any zoning board member, any town council member, I just don't want Tom, his input on it any longer. I won't do anything between either the zoning board or the town council excluding Tom. They can come up with any solution and I will be agreeable to it, excluding Tom. I do not want Tom's input in it. I think that he is conflict of interest at the very least. Whatever the zoning board or the town council comes up with, including leaving things just the way they are, I'm perfectly fine with whatever they come up with.
Thank you, Mr. Barnell. So that remains then for this council to decide who they will send. So if I got to nominate, I would have to exclude myself, and I would say I would have. Now you will have to hold, what is that called? This ex parte business. You will have to forgive that. because we will have two
I will forgive
trustees.
it. I will forgive it. I will, whatever that word
And,
is. I don't
and when the
care.
time comes for them to weigh in and vote, they will get to do that. They will not be excluded.
Sure, whatever.
Okay. So
I'm willing to go.
I think Ed's willing to go, and I think Ramon is quite capable. He's seen this done before. So I would send Ed Pinalto and Ramon Reed down there to check this out and come up with what it is exactly, square footage wise, measurement wise, whatever it is. And they can come back with a report or recommendation or whatever it is that, no, I decline to go. I'm not qualified, frankly. It's like I have tried to state, I'm asking for information and I'm not getting it. I don't think I'm qualified to develop that information. And all that would happen is then the same people would stand up here and say, oh, he shouldn't vote on it because he's prejudiced or some other crazy opinion. So I decline to do this.
I'm certainly not qualified, but what my question is, the zoning board, I understood several of the zoning board measured and
I
no,
don't believe so. Not that I'm aware of. So I
nobody
would
from
make,
the zoning board.
I would make a recommendation that either Ed Herman or Jesse Garrettson and I go with Mr. Varnell to take a look at it. I don't think all three of us should, because then it becomes a zoning board meeting. It's all three of us on the zoning board, but I'd recommend either Jesse or Ed Herman go and see if either one of them's willing to do that.
That sounds good to me.
Is Mr. Herman here tonight?
And I threw him under the bus because I didn't even look at him when I.
Yeah, well, so
To see if-
are you willing to be thrown under the bus? Okay. And so as a board, do we need to vote to send these two guys down there and come back with a set of measurements and a diagram and so forth and so on, so we can see exactly what is involved in this public highway that crosses the very tip corner of abuts Mr. Barnell's property?
My only question is, what it says on the agenda is not what we're gonna,
I don't think we're acting on what's on the agenda as far as it's a discussion of possible action. We're just trying to decide to appoint who could go and look at it with the property owner.
if it fits.
So the possible action here is send these two guys and get some real clarification of the situation.
Yeah, that would be okay, just for clarification, yeah.
Do we need to vote on that?
No, you guys have consensus. I think that you're just giving direction. You're not making a formal decision.
Okay.
Is the property owner okay with?
And you remain in agreement with holding,
As long as you're not part of the discussion.
it's, as long as I'm not part of the group down there measuring, yeah, I'm good with that. I've, nothing's changed since the very first day I saw it.
Oh, in your words, but I thought it's birdhouse. You didn't like that.
Bird houses. Yes, you have an affinity for birds, I see. Okay. All right, so that's what's gonna happen. And we will wait for that, and that will be pushed off to the next meeting, Chad. We have to vote to table this and push it off to the next meeting.
This is
Okay.
Jared, and I so move.
All right,
Second.
we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, we got a couple things coming up and then we're gonna get out of here, guys. So we have reports. So the report by Town Mayor Pro Tem Tom Gibb was a complaint was received, it was checked out. The offender was verified and given a copy of the ordinance and they moved. That's the only thing exciting I've done this month, I guess. Next on the agenda is Town Clerk's report.
Before you move to that,
Oh.
Tom, may I?
Yes.
So 3 months ago in June, the Board of Trustees received from the town clerk a number of written complaints that were filed by Mr. Todd Adams and Mr. Chad Varnell. The ex-mayor did not address that in a mayor report, as that was the month that he resigned. You took over as mayor pro tem. You received those same complaints just like the rest of the Board of Trustees. And now after June, July, August, they've never been addressed, but an anonymous complaint comes in that you addressed immediately. Be careful with discrimination, because that appears what's going on. I want to see these complaints addressed within the next 30 days by yourself or someone you appoint to look at them. But we owe to anybody in this town that files a complaint, especially those that sign the complaint, we owe it to them to do the proper investigation and the proper reporting. Waiting 3 months to do that is not proper.
I am in the home now. You are absolutely correct. So, how far back would you like me to go with this complaint count?
Well, these complaints were not addressed in May 30th through June 2nd and the 14th. The complaints prior to that, as far as I know, from the mayor previously were addressed, but these I know for a fact were not. So I'd say go back to the May 30th, June 2nd, June 14th complaints.
May 30. Sarah, you got your hand up.
I do. I'm wondering if I could ask if Mr. Payne also could clarify which complaints they were, because I do know that several complaints were addressed. And that Eddie just didn't address it from the front because he resigned. So there were several complaints that were addressed prior to his resignation.
So any of
You
the,
may not have reported on them, but what are they specifically
well,
that you know for a fact haven't been addressed by that
I would
not,
like to know if those the address, when they were addressed, if that was documented.
I'm
Do we
sure
have
there's-
documentation?
Well, if you could tell me what the complaint is, I can answer. the question.
Documented, to go to which one has or hasn't, you can figure out where he stopped and where he goes forward.
Not necessarily. I don't know everything that Eddie did, but I do know that several complaints that were filed recently were addressed. And that is likely the reason that the board didn't get the report on that is because Eddie resigned. And so if you can refresh my memory, I can let you know if they've been addressed.
If it's
So-
not addressed, it's not documented, it's not addressed.
okay, so first off, yes, I have a list of all of them. I don't know if they've been addressed or not. But the point is the complaint procedure says that they're to be reported out by the mayor. I understand the mayor resigning, and he may not have reported out on those because he left at the early part of that meeting. So I know from what you sent to us, the complaint of Todd Adams on June 2nd regarding personal property sitting on town property.
Can you tell me where
Ramon Reed's at
that was
7th Street.
addressed?
We need to see how it was addressed.
I can forward you the letter.
To all the board
No.
members, please.
Yes.
Addressing it isn't just sending the letter. I guess start with that, but the board of
It was
trustees,
addressed per the attorney's recommendations.
okay. So the board of trustees needs to be aware of that.
Okay.
The next one is, on May 30th, Chad Varnell, against you and your husband parking on town property.
That was addressed.
I just forward the information. June 14th, by Chad on maintenance on State Street.
What ordinance violation was that?
I don't have that in front of me. There was a complaint on the maintenance on State Street, potholes. Right. It's a general complaint.
Okay.
I don't know if it was on a specific ordinance.
Yeah, it would probably need to be on a specific ordinance for it to be enforced. So if there's not an ordinance that dictates that there's street maintenance, then it's
Okay.
just a point of information for the town to know that there are potholes.
And on 614, Chad Barnell, a tower that's on town property at 1118 Court Lane.
Tower where?
On 1118 Court Lane on the town street.
Right.
16 courts.
1118 Court Lane.
A tower?
Bob Nettleman.
And then,
River Street.
yeah. Another one by Chad on 614 on personal property on town property on 7th Street. A complaint on 614 by Chad on acceptance of bid on ditches. And accepting not necessarily the highest, but spending more money than we probably need to. And that's the ones that I have that I don't see where they've been addressed. Perhaps they have, but we just didn't see it in the mayor's.
Okay.
And
Did you hear all of those?
I have record of all of them. Yeah, there were some that I know that got addressed, but weren't reported on, again, due to the resignation. So.
Okay. I should have given you. Does that mic work?
are you finished, Ed?
Yes, I'm done.
And Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I have one. It's August 2nd. It has to do with the Burke Wilcox property. And I would like to know why we were not, why are we getting some of the complaints and not all the complaints? I never saw a written complaint about that property, and yet I was given a letter that you sent.
Forwarded.
I did not get that complaint.
I believe it was forwarded after the letter was sent to the folks. If my memory serves me correctly.
You didn't receive the complaint. I'll send it, I'll resend it because Ed has it. And I typically I have
I believe
an email that I send. So if one trustee has it, you all have it.
I might have received something on August 5th, but this is dated August 2nd. And
It was the same complaint.
but what I'm saying is before we were ever, no, I don't, this is just not handled
Well,
correctly. I have a real problem with it. I want to go on record with that.
All right, we'll work on these complaints, sir. We'll drag them all back up. What's been done. So Sarah, I'll give you a minute there. Do you have any particular report to give?
Yes, the town needs a new computer. We have budget for it and I would like to buy one. We also need to have a year subscription of Zoom. It's cheaper to do it that way than to pay for it month by month, which is what we've been doing. So I'd like to go ahead and do that. That's it.
I'll say a new computer and a new subscription to Zoom.
Correct.
And the town needs that, and we can vote that. What do you recommend?
You don't need to vote. It's in the budget. I'm just giving the board a heads up. We have
Okay.
$1,000 budgeted for a computer. This computer was purchased in 2016 and it is no longer functioning properly and it needs to be upgraded.
Have you got any pricing on computers and what the?
Less than $1,000. And the Zoom subscription is less than $200.
Okay. All right, all the rest of the reports are readable online.
Do we need to give her approval to do that?
It's in the budget and.
Do we need to give you approval because it's in the budget?
It's in budget. It was approved when the budget was approved.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's more of an
We give
FYI information.
Certain people, budget, and unless they blow out of it, why they get to use it. All right, anybody see any other thing on here that we need to hit? we have some upcoming things that we need to take care of. And those are updates for planning and discussion, and it's 10 o'clock, guys, I'm really sorry. So, development of descriptions for commissioners, this is left over from a couple meetings back. Process for item agendas, appeals process, So what we need is, most likely another work session. And yeehaw, another work session. I don't have my calendar with me.
Do we want to work on these items as a board of four or wait till we have a fifth? Throwing it out there.
I would not be opposed to waiting until we have 5. I don't know when that's gonna be yet.
Well, definitely after December. Because December 10th, as soon as we can have an election.
We're not gonna have an election December.
In January?
I don't think even January, frankly, because I'm not gonna be here for the last 2 weeks of December. And so I don't know how I would prepare for an election if I'm not here. And I'm also disinclined to prepare for an election during budget season. An alternative would be for the board to hire a consultant to come and run an election. Then you could potentially have one December 10th if everything can.
We did that once before.
Yeah, so in 2016, a consultant who did not come on the day of the election, consulted remotely, cost the town $7,000.
I'm totally against what we went through before.
No, I don't agree.
So if that is an option, if the board wants the election in December or early January, a consultant is an option. Otherwise, it's probably going to be in spring or possibly midwinter.
So it looks like we're just gonna be taking care of business that needs to be taken care of with 4. So it looks like we'll be taking care of business that needs to be taken care of. We will not have a work session for a while. You guys can discuss and campaign and do all you like regarding, I knew this question would come up and I checked into it. And as far as I could tell, I was going to be just fine. But that is, of course, up to the voters. Always is. So, I will be happy with whatever that is. I really would like to, hang in here a little while longer yet, but, oh well. I guess I will be anyway, won't I?
So the question is, for the updates and planning discussion, do we want to proceed with that with the board of 4? Or wait until we have, wait potentially 6 months at least?
To discuss what?
Any of that.
I think we ought to get on some of this.
I think we should too. I don't think we wait.
I think we need to get on this, description. And we need to do a little enforcement discussion. And those 2 for sure. So we do need a work session to cover something. We don't have to name it right up front, do we?
I don't think we have to. It'd be nice if we could set one if we decide we want.
So can we, wow.
Already August.
Can we do this by,
Do you want me to send an email to set a date for a work session?
yeah, can we do this by email? Set a work session?
Set a work
Yeah.
session for me.
Yeah. All right, we'll plan on setting the date for the work session by emails. And we'll pull something together, hopefully in the early or part of next month. I don't know if we can get anything this month or not. We're
19th.
I don't think we can. Okay.
Mr.
Yes, ma'am.
Mayor Pro Tem, I will be gone to Mayo Clinic from September 18th till possibly October 18th.
But you'll be available prior to September 18th.
Yes. Thank you. But of course, you could still have a quorum. I'm just letting you know for people that need to work around.
Okay. Thank you, Jerry. All right, if there's nothing else, thank you so very much.
One question.
Yes, sir.
File the complaint. Does that person not get any response back at all? Do we give any kind of feedback to the person who filed the complaint?
May I just jump in here? I will send you the complaint procedure and you can read it.
I can't read.
Well, you can have your wife read it to you.
Okay. All right, thank you very much, everyone. This meeting is adjourned.
We still.
Yeah, just take a moment.
One.
I think the only thing on this, which is bringing the dirt pile on my report.
These two bags came out each one. So I did not see this. And admiring that work down there. There was some question when this first started. I think it happened with the ability.
So we have, and I put it in the report.